They thought I was just the janitor, some nobody with a wrench, someone whose life must have hit a dead end if mopping mats and fixing pipes was my thing. You know the type. And honestly, I got used to that look, that smirk, the way Coach Mason would shout, "Is that your daughter or your assistant?" While my kid stared through the glass like she was asking for a spot in a world that had already decided she didn't fit. Yeah, that happened. But what they didn't know, what nobody in that dojo could see, was that sometimes the quietest guy in the room is the one who knows exactly what's worth fighting for. Let me back up a sec. That day, I was elbow-deep fixing a leak, listening to the sound of Daisy's backpack slip off her shoulder as Mason took his usual swipe. The class was sharp, snapping punches like a drumline, uniforms spotless as their futures probably were. And Daisy, 9, small, hungry to belong, stood in the corner, pretending not to hear. "Don't block the door," Mason said, not even looking up. The kind of laugh that followed, you know the one, it's not loud, but it cuts deeper than most. It's how kids learn where the line is. I tightened the last bolt, wiped my hands, and stepped up next to Daisy. "She wasn't blocking the door," I said, "just loud enough." Mason grinned, said something about plumbers and belts, the kind of thing you'd laugh at in a bar but not in front of your kid. The other kids snickered. I just looked at him, took Daisy's backpack, and turned to leave. But then, out of nowhere, Naomi Sinclair's voice cut through everything. She was the kind of woman who didn't raise her voice unless she meant it. She made Mason apologize, not for me, but for the class. That's the difference between authority and leadership. She looked at Daisy and asked, "Do you want to learn?" Daisy glanced at me, and for a second I saw that hope, that reach. "I'm just here to fix the leak," I muttered. Naomi's face didn't budge. "And I'm here to fix something else." She let Daisy stay and watch. It was such a small thing, but you could feel the air change, like maybe for once, the door was open just a crack. 2 days later, I'm helping Daisy into a borrowed GI that was 3 sizes too big. Sleeves rolled up, nerves rolling off her in waves. "You don't have to do this," I told her. She said, "I want to." Inside, the room buzzed, parents watching, Mason smiling that politician smile, Emily, one of the senior students, waving Daisy over. Naomi, always in her blazer, was talking with Master Kenji. "She has your walk," Naomi whispered to me. That quiet confidence, like she belongs even when no one invited her. I shrugged. She just doesn't know when to be scared yet. Naomi tilted her head. Or maybe she does, and walks in anyway. There was a silence, one of those moments that hangs, doesn't ask permission. "Thank you," I said, for seeing her. Naomi shook her head. "Not charity, just correction. There's something broken in that room." I just hadn't realized how badly until she looked through that window. We talked a little more. I learned Naomi built this place with her late husband. It was supposed to be about more than medals or rank. "Now it's a business," she said. I was drifting over to Mason. I stopped listening to my gut the day I handed over the keys. I joked about her needing a louder wrench. She laughed, for real, the kind of laugh that comes from remembering you're still alive. Then came the demonstration. Mason wanted to prove his way was the only way, so he called me out. Everyone watching, parents, kids, the whole crew. I stood across from him, plain GI, faded belt. Mason barked, "Glad you showed up. Was worried you'd be too busy unclogging drains." The crowd snickered. Naomi laid out the rules: no head strikes, no submissions unless verbal, stop when commanded. We bowed, and the match began. Mason came in hot kicks, punches, the whole show. I just moved, dodged, let him wear himself out. Why isn't he fighting back? Daisy whispered to Emily. Emily smiled. Because he doesn't need to yet. Mason's frustration started to show, his technique got sloppier, his anger louder. Finally, he overreached, and I stepped inside, hooked his knee, and let gravity do the rest. No violence, just a quiet thud. Mason hit the mat, and I offered him a hand up. "You afraid to hit me?" He spat. I said, "I'm afraid I might teach you something you're not ready to learn." That landed hard. Afterward, something shifted. Naomi declared the demonstration over, and the room kids, parents, even old Kenji, began to clap. Quiet, but honest. Naomi later brought me her husband's old training journal, a leather-bound map of philosophies and diagrams. A black belt is just a white belt who never stopped showing up, it read. We talked about loss, about guilt, about whether anything we were doing mattered. She deserves better than the broken pieces of me, I said about Daisy. Naomi looked at me, voice strong. Then show her how to build with them. Weeks went by. Mason disappeared. No call, no note, just gone. Naomi and I kept showing up, turning an empty building into a new kind of circle. No belts, no ranks, just people who wanted to belong. The day Daisy was hit by that delivery truck, time stopped. I sat with her mother, with Naomi, in the hospital, counting every minute until Daisy opened her eyes. Will I still be able to kick? She asked. Not for a while, but someday. She nodded. Then I guess it's time to learn something new. Balance. That kid, she's tougher than I'll ever be. We started meeting in an old storage room. Naomi, Kinji, me, Daisy, and a few others. We're not here to earn rank, Naomi said. We're here to reclaim rhythm, to remember why we move and why we still matter. I told them, well, not to me, but to the part of yourself that showed up. A new dojo, not on paper, but in purpose. The day Daisy returned in her wheelchair, I handed her a slate gray belt, something that wasn't official, but meant more than any certificate. This belt isn't for technique. It's for truth. Naomi gave me a pin, her late husband's design, a phoenix rising. It's not a title, she said. It's a thank you for carrying what couldn't be carried. There was a moment between us, hope, finally allowed to be real. Kids left their marks on a canvas, handprints, words of courage. Daisy pressed her cast onto the cloth. Still kicking, she wrote. Naomi pinned an old photo of her husband, no caption, just legacy. We lost our certification, sure. But as Naomi said, they can take the license, but they can't take the truth. We built something new in an old hardware store, called it the Circle Community Courage Connection. The first anniversary, we gave Daisy a black belt embroidered with her name and the kanji for honor through healing. Will it still count? She asked. It counts because you lived every lesson it represents. She became our youngest assistant sensei. If you're still here, maybe this story found something in you that needed to hear it. So I gotta ask, where are you listening from? What part stayed with you? Drop a comment, share your thoughts about justice, courage, second chances. Because sometimes the most broken things become the most beautiful once someone believes they're still worth mending. Let's keep this circle going. If you found something here, subscribe for more stories. And wherever you are, stay kind, stay brave, and never stop showing up. If you asked me a year ago if I'd ever see Daisy back on the mats, hell, if I'd ever see myself teaching anything but how to swing a mop, I would have laughed you right out of the building. But here we are, almost 18 months since that first circle, and life, well, it has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. Some days, it still hits me. The shock of how everything's changed, and yet, somehow, how much it all feels the same. See, the circle's not just a club anymore. It's a movement, even if nobody dares say it out loud. We've got a little sign outside that says, "Strength is showing up," hand-painted by Daisy herself. And half the parents around town send their kids not for medals, but because they hear what we're about. Resilience, courage, starting again. Most weeks, we're bursting at the seams, kids spilling into the hallway, parents pulling up old folding chairs, laughter echoing down what used to be an empty store. We even got heat this winter. Fancy, I know. Still, with every new beginning, there's a shadow that follows. The regional board never did reverse their decision. We're still blacklisted, still unaccredited. And sometimes I see parents checking over their shoulders as they walk in, like they're afraid someone's keeping score. Maybe they are. I tell them what I tell myself. We're not breaking the rules. We're just rewriting the book. But trouble's got a way of finding you when you're making waves. It started with a letter, anonymous, of course, taped to our door. Teaching children without proper certification endangers them all. Stop now before someone gets hurt. Naomi read it in the break room, her lips pressed tight. Cowards write warnings. Leaders knock, she said, and tossed it in the trash. But I could see it rattled her, just a little. Because the next day, a city inspector showed up. Now, I'll admit, my heart beat a little faster when he walked in, clipboard in hand. Shoes too shiny for a place with this much dust. Just a routine inspection, he said, but you could tell he was looking for something, anything, to shut us down. Fire codes, parking lot violations. Even tried the old no food on the premises trick when he saw Daisy with a granola bar. Naomi stayed cool, but I caught her pacing the back room, checking every socket, every exit sign, like she could will us into passing. But then, here's where it gets wild. One of the parents, Mrs. Patel, steps in. She's a nurse at County General, tough as nails, and she starts walking the inspector through every improvement we'd made. See those first aid kits? Donated by our hospital. That mat. My husband's company sponsored it. These windows. We raised the money ourselves. She didn't just stand up for us. She built a wall he couldn't climb. By the end, the inspector had no choice but to sign off. He left, grumbling. But he left. That night, Naomi pulled me aside. We have an army, Joe, she said quietly. But it only works if we remember what made us strong. She paused, looking at Daisy practicing in her braces, sweat running down her brow, that old, fierce focus in her eyes. We didn't build this for power. We built it for possibility. But I could see it, behind Naomi's eyes, a storm gathering. She started working late, meeting with lawyers, making calls to other unaccredited schools across the state. It was like the old fight had come back in a new form. This time, not about a building, but about the right to choose how our kids grow. Then came the twist nobody saw coming. The local news showed up, some intern looking to fill a segment about community spaces making a difference. I almost turned her away, but Naomi just smiled that small, dangerous smile of hers and said, "Let them see." They filmed a whole class, Daisy running drills with Marcus, Kenji teaching breathing techniques to a mom with PTSD, Emily guiding a group of 6-year-olds through their first bow. When the segment aired, our phone blew up, parents calling, grandparents writing letters, even a few old rivals reaching out to say they'd always respected what we were doing, even if they couldn't say it before. With the new attention, though, came more scrutiny. A former student of Mason's, remember him? Showed up one afternoon, big chip on his shoulder. "You're teaching kids to be soft," he sneered, "not winners." I kept my cool, but inside I was boiling. Naomi handled it, invited him to join a class, see what soft really looked like. He never showed up again, but the tension lingered. For every parent who celebrated us, there was another whispering that maybe, just maybe, we were leading their kids down the wrong path. And all the while, Daisy kept rising. Her progress was slow, sure, but relentless. She learned how to pivot on one good leg, how to block from a seated position, how to lead warm-ups with her voice when her body couldn't. Kids started following her example, measuring their courage not in trophies, but in how many times they could stand up after falling. At the one-year circle, I gave her a medal, not gold, not sanctioned, just a token shaped like a flame. For lighting the way, I said. She grinned and whispered, "Still kicking, coach." One night, after class, Naomi found me staring at the old circle canvas, the one with all the handprints, the marks of everyone who'd ever shown up. "You ever wonder if we're doing enough?" I asked. She shook her head. "Enough for who? For the board? For the parents who want medals? Or for the kids who show up, even when it hurts?" Her voice softened. "For them, we'll always be enough." But the board wasn't done with us. Out of nowhere, we got a summons, an offer to present our philosophy at the State Martial Arts Convention. Half invitation, half setup. "They want a show," Naomi said. "They want to see if we'll crack under pressure." I didn't want to go. Honestly, I was tired of fighting rooms full of men in suits. But Daisy, she was the one who changed my mind. "Coach, if we don't tell them, who will?" she said. I steady, groaned as we went. Me, Naomi, Kenji, and Daisy, rolling into a room full of skeptics, the youngest and bravest of us leading the way. We spoke about the circle, about failure and courage, about what it means to teach strength of heart. Naomi ended with a simple line. "Our job isn't to create champions. It's to create people who don't quit on themselves or each other." The room was quiet at first, Then applause broke, slow but honest. Not everyone stood, but enough did to make us feel, for once, like we weren't alone. Outside in the parking lot, snow starting to fall, Naomi grabbed my arm. Whatever comes next, we don't back down. Not now, not ever. And for the first time since the day I stepped into this world, I believed her. These days, the circle's grown beyond anything I imagined. New faces show up every week. Parents who never cared about martial arts start joining, just to be part of something real. Kids like Daisy lead warm-ups, wheelchairs and all. We're still unlicensed, still unofficial, but what we have, well, nobody can take it away, not anymore. Sometimes, late at night, I catch myself thinking about all the times I almost quit, about how the quiet kid at the window, the janitor in the back, the grieving woman with a clipboard, all found each other at just the right moment. Maybe that's all life is, showing up again and again, until the fear runs out of breath and the hope has room to grow. And if you're out there, listening, wondering if it's worth starting over, let me tell you, it always is. That's the real black belt, the real gold medal. Standing up, one more time, even when the world tells you to stay down. Oh, let me ask, what's the circle in your life? Where have you found strength, not in victory, but in coming back? Drop your story in the comments. Let's keep building this circle, one voice, one hope, one comeback at a time. If you're still here, still believing, thank you. You're part of what makes us whole. And as always, stay kind, stay brave, and never stop showing up.